We got a big crowd tonight. Boopy's a well-known man, ain't he? So I guess I'll tell you what we're doing tonight. Boopy Hans is speaking. What? What is your real name, Boopy? It's Boopy, ain't it? No, I don't believe you. Show me your birth certificate. Let me see your ID or something. Well, I like to call him Billiam. But I'm super happy about Boopy speaking. Super proud of him. I'll get more into it whenever it's time for him to come up. No. No. But anyways, let me thank some people for this food. Okay, let's thank Vanessa. Marcy. Brittany. Larry's here tonight, back there in the red shirt. Whenever Larry got here, he said, "Sorry, I smell like cheeseburgers and honeysuckles." I was like, what? That's an odd combination, ain't it? Honeysuckle cheeseburgers. Amy. And Mr. Sean. Thank you guys for all that you do. The food's always good, and you guys are always a blessing. Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if you heard what Vanessa said. I love seeing a big crowd. I was thinking about this all week about, the best stories you hear are success stories. They are, like you watch movies, you hear them on the radio, you read books. And love stories are good. Sad stories are sad, but when you see a love story or hear a love story, you're like, oh, I want that, Or you hear something sad, oh, I feel bad for them. But you hear a success story, and it motivates you, really. When people come up here and speak and tell their story, it motivates somebody at some point, somehow, So I love success, and everybody in this room right now is a success story. You know what I mean? And let's keep it that way, right? I'm just saying, it can turn from a success story, very quick. But I love you guys, and I love y'all for showing up, and I love seeing you. I missed you last week. I heard Jamie done a horrible job, so I won't do it again. So I'm sorry. I'm just kidding, brother. I love you, and I appreciate you filling in for me. All right, so let's carry on. There he is, man with the glasses, Terminator. Shannon Crouch, everybody.
So how's everybody really doing tonight? Sometimes we go through trials, tribulations here in this earth, and all of a sudden we see something that looks shiny, looks good, and sometimes we're content and take that step towards that. But I'm reminded again today that we need not just to be content where we're at. We need to stand up and be a bright, shining light for Jesus Christ. So anyway, I'm proud of each one of you guys for being here. Do we have any first-timers? We got to make that first step for recovery. Anybody first time? Come on. All right. All right, how about right here? She'll get your chip. All right, how about 30 days? Anybody 30 days? 60 days? 90 days? All right. Four months? Anybody got 4 months? 5 months? How about 6 months? 7 months? Wow, it's quiet. Everybody must be here for Boopy. 8 months? How about 9 months? How about 10 months? What you sit down for? All right, Boopy wants to come up here for a minute.
I want to give this tip to a good friend of mine. I've been praying that he'd get himself together, and Lord, he's done it for 11 months. Michael Smeltzer, I'm proud of you, brother.
All right, how about 1 year? Anybody got 1 year? Boopy's coming back up.
I'm going to give this one to a good friend of mine for 18 months. Wesley, you earned this, brother. Come on. Come on.
All right, Jesse's going to come out and give us some special, more trips out.
Has anybody got 2 years? The next 2 chips is kind of special to JCAP. One of them's Ricky Gregg. Getting their 3 year. And the other one's Mr. Corey Hazelwood. Is there anybody else that's got multiple years? All right, everybody that got a chip. Here's one. How many years? 3 years. Everybody that got a chip, can you please come up here and take another picture? How many you got? This has got 41 years.
All right, one more round of applause to everybody who got a chip. Super proud of Ricky Gregg and Corey Hazelwood. Is everybody listening? What did I just say? I couldn't understand nothing nobody said. I'd want to give a special chip out real quick. So before I started and everything, Corey's daughter was here, and she said, "Will you call me up on stage and let me get a chip? Because I've never done drugs." I said, "All right." So I'm gonna give an 8-year chip to Maya Hazelwood. 8 years, everybody. Hey, Maya, come back here. Let's get your picture taken, all right? 8 years. Hold up your chip. It just warmed my heart when she said, "I've never done drugs. I want to eat your chip." So I said, "You got it." All right. So, Boopy Hance. I'm just saying your name because it's catchy, you know. I mean, I've told everybody I'm super nervous about giving him a microphone and letting him get up here and talk, you know. And I called him outside. I was like, "Listen, Boopy, I'm going to give you this microphone, but don't you get up here and be saying nothing crazy. Remember, we're in church. This is Celebrate Recovery, you're on live stream." And he started doing this stuff, and I knew exactly what he was about to say. But I said no. But I love Boopy. We got out of jail the same day. So we went through the program like that, and he had a little more clean time than I did because he was, you know, he was clean a couple months before me, but he waits to get his chips and stuff until I can get mine, you know. Is that not cool? So I love him for that. That means a lot. It means a lot to me. It really does. You don't know how much that means to me. It means a lot because people are excited to get chips. I am. You know, I probably wouldn't wait for you. I'm just kidding. But he waits for me, and that's a big deal to me, and I love you for that, buddy. All right, so I'm scared to death, but without further ado, Boopy Hance, everybody.
I love you, buddy.
Be good.
Enjoy. Thank you. That's wind breeze. That ain't pea breeze. All right, my name's Billy Hance. Everybody calls me Boopy, even the judges. I just want to read this Psalms 138 before I get started. It says, "I will praise thee with a whole heart before the gods. Will I sing praise unto thee? I will worship toward the holy temple and praise thy name for the loving kindness and for thy truth. For thou hast magnified thy word above all thy name. In the day when I cried, thou answered me and strengthened me with strength in my soul. All the kings of the earth shall praise thee, O Lord, when they hear the words of thy mouth. Yea, they shall sing in the ways of the Lord, for the great is the glory of the Lord. Though the Lord be high, yet hath he respect unto the lowly. But the proud he knoweth afar off. Though I walk in the midst of trouble, thou wilt revive me. Thou shalt strengthen forth thine hands against the wrath of my enemies. and thy right hand shall save me. The Lord will perfect that which considereth me. Thy mercy, O Lord, endureth forever. Forsake not for works of thy own hands. Well, I know Don will open this up in prayer, but I'd like to say a little prayer too. Dear Heavenly Father, I thank you for the opportunity to be here. Lord, I thank you for all that you've done for me. Lord, I can't thank you enough for everybody that's come out to hear me speak and all the support. Lord, I owe it all to you. Without you, Lord, I could not do it on my own. I'd like to thank my family and all my friends for showing up here tonight. And Lord, I'd like to thank you most of all for standing by me and dragging me out of the ditch. I love you, Lord, and amen. Well, I guess I'll just start by, I'll go ahead and tell you because I'm nervous. Well, Dan, thank you. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you that when I first come to JCAP, Dan Williams wanted me and Donnie Dover to feed all of JCAP. He took us up to his house. I said, Dan, me or Donnie, neither one's not working. I said, how are we going to feed everybody in JCAP? He said, well, I'm going to give you into my rifle. Let you kill some wild meat. And you all know I'm a convicted felon, so the judges, I didn't really have a gun, but they did. Dan takes us up to his house and gives me and Donnie a .22 rifle. It was just a single-shot rifle with one shell. Me and Donnie both stood there looking at each other like, how are we going to feed everybody with one shell? What are we going to kill? He said, kill you a squirrel or something? So me and Donnie walked down the edge of the woods behind his house. And me and Donnie was arguing over who's going to get to shoot the squirrel. We get down there and look up in the tree. There's a big squirrel sitting up in the tree eating a nut. Took that rifle and I aimed up at that squirrel. Right as I was fixing to shoot, Donnie reached over and pecks me on the shoulder. He said, hey, Boopy, look. I look over, there's a big buck deer standing there. I said, man, if we could get that, we could feed all of JCAP. I looked around. Donnie said, let me get him. I said, I got him, Donnie. So I aimed that rifle. And that old big buck deer just staring at me. I shot him right between the eyes. That deer fell over and hit up against a tree, knocked a squirrel out of the tree. It hit dead on the antler of that deer. Nut flew out of that squirrel's mouth, hit a rabbit in the back of the head, killed it, graveyard dead. Donnie throws his hands up to thank the good Lord for all that meat and caught 2 quails as they flew out of the brush pile. So we fed JCAP. That's just a joke. I ain't allowed to have a gun. But my addiction started when I was probably 5-year-old. I grew up with my mom and dad both alcoholics. My grandparents on my mom's side, they was alcoholics. All they did was make liquor. My grandpa on my dad's side run liquor. It started out that all my family, all they knowed was growing pot and making liquor. I first started smoking pot, sneaking around smoking it, and stealing my uncle's pot. They growed it off the bank there at the house, and I'd go down there and fill my pockets up and roll it with a paper bag. And so my uncle started having me to help him carry water down to water his pot. I'd carry the far out of water just to get me a leaf or two off of the pot plants. I was tired of carrying water one day, and he told me, he said, "Hey," he said, "You tired?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, he gave me a RJS. I don't know. I mean, some of you might be old enough to remember that. It's, Black Beauty's speed pill. He said, "Don't you tell your mama." I took that pill. I was running around like a chicken with its head cut off. I carried water and carried water. I was tired of carrying water. Next day, he said, "Hey, I want you to help me carry some water down there." I said, "We just watered them last night." He said, "Yeah, I need to get some more water down there." I was just a little old fella carrying 5-gallon buckets of water, and I carried I don't know how many buckets off that bank. And he said, "You help me carry some more?" I said, "No, I'm tired." He said, "I'll tell you, Mama, you was taking pills." Oh, here I was carrying them buckets of water down there more and more, you know. I got tired of carrying water, and he said, "I'll tell you, Mama, you've been taking pills." I said, "That's all right. I'm going to tell her that you give them to me." Didn't have to carry no more water after that. It went on and on. My dad, I'd sneak around drinking their liquor and stuff. I'd steal their liquor and their beer. I remember I got my brother one of them old cardboard barrels one time. I'd been sneaking around drinking it, and he wasn't much of a drinker then. And I got him in that cardboard barrel, big tall boy beer. Him and my stepbrother, I got them in there, and we killed a couple of them tall boy beers. Well, I was able to climb out of the barrel where I'd been sneaking around drinking. I was sort of used to it, but my brother and my stepbrother was down in the barrel and they couldn't get out. It went on, and my dad had a truck wreck. The speed pill was probably the only speed pill that I'd ever had at that time. And, it went on that my dad had a truck wreck, and it broke both of his legs and his arms and his back, his neck and stuff. And they started giving him pain medicine. I remember I used to steal his pain pills, and probably 8-year-old, and I steal one of his pills and sleep for 2 or 3 days. Act like I was going to school, and I'd get them pills and crawl under. I'd take one of them pills and have to crawl under the house and be passed out. It went on for a while like that, and I finally got over the pills. I couldn't take them. It was too much for me at that time. Kept on and on. I just smoked pot, and I'd take hydros and stuff here and there. And a lot of times sometimes the hydros would make me hyper, then sometimes they'd pass me out. Went on and on. I finally got a little older and started skipping school and stuff, and just doing crazy stuff. I think I was in the 4th or 5th grade. I was going to be a pot salesman like my uncles. Here I go to school selling everybody in school pot, 4th or 5th grade, and I had 8th graders coming buying weed off of me. A couple of my friends at the time, they got caught with a bag of pot in school, like a quarter bag of pot. And, well, they told on me. Imagine that. After they told on me, the teachers come and asked me, said they wanted to search me. Well, you can search me. I ain't got no pot. They searched me. They searched my desk and everything. I was thinking to myself, man, I hope they don't look in that backpack. Book bag is what I called it. Well, sure enough, they wanted to look in my book bag. And they went back there, and so I get caught with 4 ounces of pot in 5th grade. They sent me to reform school. I got to reform school and started just acting a fool and stuff. And I remember I built my privileges up to come home on the weekends, and I'd come home on the weekends and they give you a drug test and you go back. I got to come home one weekend, went back, failed a drug test. I had everything in my system, pills and pot and whatever you could think of. And it went on and on like that for a while. I started skipping school, and even worse, and never had the opportunity to really be in school or learn to read and do math and stuff like that. I'd go to school and eat breakfast, sneak out the back door, go back about 3 o'clock in time to catch the bus to catch it back to the house. I was an unruly child. Went on and on like that till I was probably in the 8th grade. Well, I was probably in the 6th grade. I think I was 14 when my mother got killed by a drunk driver. My dad was still alcoholic. Joe Mack was up there when my mother got killed. A man grabbed her by the arm, drug her down the road. After she got killed, I started doing everything. I guess my drug of choice was Xanaxes. I'd take him Xanax, well, just anything I could get my hands a hold of, really. Just try to kill the pain. I started doing pills real bad then. My dad was still alcoholic at the time. My stepmom got custody of me and my brother to keep us from getting sent back out. And I never would do what I was supposed to do. I finally said I'd rather be sent off as I would to live there. It wasn't nothing bad. I mean, they bought us anything we wanted and give us whatever we needed, made sure we had clothes on and food and stuff, but I wanted to get out and get high. So I just left. They sent me to reform school, and well, first they sent me to mental health hospital. It was Lakeshore. It used to be Eastern States, but it's Lakeshore now. Well, I think they shut it down. They got other ones. But I stayed down there for a long time, and I remember my brother and my stepmom and them come to see me, and I was trying to get them to get me and take me home. And she said, "No, you have to stay down here. You have to stay down here." I said, "Well, you have to leave." I said, "I'm leaving too." So they left, and this is my grandbaby. And they left, and I told my brother, I said, "Hey, time you get back to Newport, I'll be there." Ow. And they said, "No, you won't be able to leave." And I said, "What time you get to Newport?" I said, "I'll be there too." Well, they left, and Lord behold, I beat them back to Newport. I swam across that river down there in Knoxville, and couldn't really swim. I dog paddled. And so after I got out of there, I was almost 17, just running wild, taking pills and drinking and doing whatever I could do to get high. I remember the first time that I went to jail. I was 17 years old. They charged me as an adult, and they said, they told me They told me, I said, you can't put me in jail. I ain't but 17-year-old. They said, welcome to adulthood. So Lisa Mooneyham, she used to be over the juveniles in Newport, and she tried every way in the world to get me to stay at one of them reform schools and go to a halfway house and all of that, but I never would really go for it, and I just running wild. Every time they'd get me, I'd escape from them, run off. So I was 17, fixing to turn 18. About 3 days before I was 18-year-old, I'd got back out. I went to Jefferson County. I got in trouble down there in Jefferson County. I won't get into all the details, but I ended up, they sent me to Jefferson County. I stayed down there for 36 months. They sent me to Brushy Mountain. I went through classification, got back out. They sent me to a boot camp. I run off from the boot camp, went on, and I was just running wild, doing pills. I never was a IV user, but I remember, I'd got on cocaine real bad. I had one uncle that he messed with cocaine a lot. He was one of my favorite uncles. His name was Billy Hance too. And then my other uncle had shot him and killed him. After that happened, I was doing anything I could get my hands a hold of. Never did, up until I was older, I never did really do any more coke. I mean, I did it, but it wasn't my drug of choice. I always liked downers. It went on and on to, I forget exactly how old I was. I was just doing anything and everything. My dad told me I could come live with him. He quit drinking. He told me I could come live with him. I went to live with my dad, and I got down there and was doing good. Was going to school and stuff, and I think I was in the 10th grade. I got into it with a guy at a bar. I ended up, we got in a fight, and the next morning he comes to my house, and I ended up shooting him. I shot him, and here I go back to jail. After I got back in jail, it seemed like every time I'd get out, I'd try to do better, but it seemed like I was doing worse. I just kept getting charges and more charges and more charges. I didn't think I'd ever be able to get out of jail. I just started running wild. And in 1994, my son was born. That was a big change there. So I done good and stayed off of pills and stuff. Trying to be a good dad. I usually I still smoke pot. Pot's always been my drug of choice. And nerve pills. I just kept smoking and stuff. I ended up, I've done good for a long time. Probably, I think it's like six years now. I ended up, I was doing all kinds of drugs. I had a seizure and fell out. Finally started just doing all kinds of everything. After I had that seizure, and I just kept smoking. I used marijuana to calm my nerves down, marijuana to help me eat, marijuana to help me think. When I had the seizures, well, they started giving me Xanaxes again. I could get just about any kind of pills I wanted. I started running backwards and forwards to Florida. I take people up there for, well, never mind about that, but I started doing pills real bad. Running crazy, and I ended up, I kept having seizures real bad. I ended up having a seizure, a couple of them back to back, and then it made me have a stroke. And they had me partially paralyzed on my left side. Well, they found cancer on one side of my brain and an aneurysm on the other side. It slowed me down a lot, but I was still getting high. I really couldn't function on my left side. Not even a month later, I had another stroke. It completely paralyzed me on my left side. I couldn't do nothing, couldn't get out of the bed. I could go to the doctor and they'd load me up with pain pills, nerve pills, just about anything I wanted. After so long, the pills just wasn't doing nothing for me. My youngest son asked me, my oldest son was older, and my youngest son asked me, he said, "Dad, you ever going to be able to play with me again?" It broke me down. I mean, I was already in the bed, but I said, "Yeah, son, I'm going to be able to play with you again." So I'd get my medicine. Instead of taking it, I started bottling it up and dropping it behind the bed where I could function. I was already down like a cow with a broke leg or something, just not able to move. I was in a wheelchair, backwards and forwards through the house in that wheelchair. And when you live in a mobile home, you ain't got much of a highway to get backwards and forwards through. One of my buddies come by and he said, "Hey, I got something to help you get out of that chair." I said, "What's that?" He said, "Meth." I said, "What is meth?" I mean, I'd heard of it, but never really been introduced to it. I started doing that meth. I said, "What's it like?" He said, "It's like cocaine." He said, "It's better than any cocaine you ever had." Yeah, it was. Send you to hell. Yeah. And I started doing that meth, and, well, the more I do of it, the more it seemed like I could get around. I went from a wheelchair to a walker. I was going through the benchmark therapy up there, going backwards and forwards, doing that therapy. The doctor said I'd never walk again. I'd never have no use of my left side. I started praying to give me strength to be able to play with my kid. It went on for a long time. I got to where I couldn't get out of the house to get anything. Well, I started making it. About as I had said, I did. Started making it myself, shaking the bottle. After I started doing that, I'd hate to sell it to anybody. I'd rather give it to them as I would sell it to them. Could have made a killing off of it, but I didn't. It was the devil's drug. It caused me to lose my family, my kids. they always stuck by me, but I could tell they had their distance. I mean, you can't blame them. It went on and on. I finally got over the meth and started messing with pills again. I finally just got sick and tired of being down and out and the pity party. So I started just doing. I got rid of all the pills. 90% of them I ended up taking. I started doing stuff that I didn't think I'd be able to do again. I just kept praying, laying in that bed praying that I could just get off the drugs and to be able to play with my kid and get my family back in my life. It went on for a couple of years. I was just running wild, doing all kinds of stuff. I started messing with pot again, growing pot, stealing pot. I didn't care who it was. I had some big-time people that I messed with, a lot of older people that I messed with. They depended on, that's how they made their living, by growing pot. And I was breaking it off. I was breaking them off with it, stealing their pot. I never did breaking people's houses and stuff like that. But if you had pot, I'm sorry if I ever stole you the pot. I was one of the best pot thieves in probably Cocke County. But I just that's bad to say. I know, Donald. But I just kept on, and I stole pot all over Cocke County. Thought I was doing good, riding around 50, 75 pounds in a vehicle. They got me with 46.6 pound of pot down here in Newport, and I'd got back out on bond. A week later, they got me with 9 pound. I had a bunch of other charges on me too. I used to be a flight risk to the Cocke County Sheriff's Department. I apologize to all the Cocke County Sheriff's Department, city, U.S. Marshals, TBI, FBI, all of you. I was bad. So I just kept messing with pot and stuff and doing the wrong thing. I just couldn't get it right. I ended up it's 4.5 years. I'd known Lisa all my life. When we was kids, she used to be my girlfriend. Then we went on about our ways. We was kids then. I finally got her back in my life. She was alcoholic, and I was a drug addict. And they don't mix, trust me, they don't mix. So I did the JCAP program. I went through JCAP. I done real good. I was out, not doing nothing, no drugs or nothing. Somebody said, "Here, smell this," and I smelled of it, and there I was rolling, I was smoking. Relapsed after almost 2 years clean. So I started smoking again. One thing led to another one, right back into the meth sack. I methed up. Well, I started just being crazy, doing crazy stuff again. I remember I was still struggling of getting around. I could get around and stuff, but I believe it was due to praying. that I was able to do what I was doing. And I never stopped praying. I'd run. I had all kinds of charges on me. And, they wanted me for violation. I had all the pot charges and stuff on me. They get me. The law finally gets me out of there. I run them for 2 or 3 days, and I go back to jail. I get back in jail, and I get back out on bond. I ended up getting more charges. Went back to jail. Every time I'd see blue lights, I'd flee from them. I'd get happy feet. It didn't matter if I was in a car or what, but I'd take off. They got after me in Carson Springs, and I run from them. They get me stopped up here in town. Me and my dog both runs. Well, after they get me, I was really happy to go to jail. That's one time that I never wanted to go to jail, but this time I was ready. They get me and take me to jail, and I had a $500,000 bond. And I get in court and try to get them to lower my bond. They said that I was a flight risk. So I was trying to get my bond lowered. They raised my bond to $1 million. It was just unbelievable to me. So I am $1 million man. I know I had no money in my pocket, but I'm $1 million man. I tried to get them to lower my bond, and they wouldn't lower it. Stand there in handcuffs and shackles and arguing with the judge. It don't do no good to argue with Mark Strange. Tell you it don't. So they raised my bond to $1 million, and I was standing there, and I was mouthing off toward him and stuff. And I said, well, just take me back across the road. So I turned around and walked out the door. Standing outside the door, the handcuffs and shackles on. Nobody came out. I looked at that door, and I looked at the hallway, and my other bailiffs sitting down there. I get to the top of the steps. They look at me like I'm crazy, and I look at them like they're crazy, too, for not grabbing hold of me. I get to the bottom of the steps, and I look back up, and here I go, through the middle of town. I bail on them, rabbit feet. I get down there and pass the bank. I'll never forget it, and I went by that drive-through window on my feet, and that woman went, I never let up. I get to Long John Silver's. Before I get to Long John Silver's, there's a lot of police that was after me, and they probably don't know how I escaped from them. But I'm going to tell you, those old bars down there in town, Skid Row, thank God for Skid Row. The bars were shut down, but I went in them old bars and was hiding behind some boards, plywood they had piled in there. I don't know which ones of them it was, but they came in there, 4 or 5. This hollering, come out, we sending the dog in, we send the dog in. And I was panting behind them boards like a dog. I just laid there. Well, the next thing you know, boo, 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 I hear them cars taking off. So here I am peeping through the little cracks, looking out. I watched them leave. So big bright boopy. I run out that back door, climb across a fence. I didn't realize that I was inside of a fence. I climb across that fence, got hung up with the handcuffs, and here I am trying to get it loose from that barbed wire on top of the fence, and I make it over to the other side, and I'm standing there like, are you dumb? Are you dumb? I'm inside this fence, so I had to climb across again to get out the other side. Police running everywhere. I make it to Long John Silver's. I'll never forget the look on this man's face. I run inside and was looking out the windows, police running everywhere. And I just sat down beside this man and woman, didn't even know him. I just sat down beside of him. He said, "Son, are you hungry?" He slid that chicken over there. I said, "No, sir, thank you." And I said, "I'm sorry to bother you." He said, "You ain't bothering me." I said, "I'm just passing through." He said, "You better get you something to eat from the looks of it." "I'm good, I appreciate it." So I stand there and watch them. They running everywhere. I make it out the front door of Long John's, go across the road, East Tennessee Tire down there. I climb on top of their building. When I run out of the courthouse, I run out of my shoes. I was barefooted. And you get on top of one of them tar roofs. Son, I had blisters that thick on the bottom of my feet, laying on that where it's so hot outside. So I make it from there, and I go up Prospect. I go up to where, and I was hiding behind houses and stuff. And bless his heart, this little man was sitting on his front porch, and he was a black guy. He was sitting on his front porch, and I didn't know he was sitting there, and I come crawling around the house like a dog, and he said, he turned white. I said, "Sir, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." He said, I said, "I'm sorry." I said, "I'm just passing through." He said, "Do you need some water?" I said, "I'd like to have some, but I ain't got time." I was still getting up through there. So I made it to one of my friends' houses. I made it to that house, and I go in there, and I looked everywhere in his house. He told me, he said, "Have you ever come up?" And he said, "And I'm not home." He said, "Just open the door and come on in." And that's what I did. Nobody was there. Looked everywhere for some bolt cutters or something to get me out of where I was handcuffed and shackled. Poor old Monty, I got him a week off without pay. Still got his handcuffs. But I was sitting there, and I was thinking of every way, any which way I could get to my brother's house. Well, this car pulls up. It was a drug house. This car pulls up, and I go to the door looking out, and I said, "Hey, come here a minute." He comes in there, and I said, "Hey, can you just give me a ride to Carson Springs?" He said, "Boopy, what are you done?" He said, "Oh, no, you didn't." I said, "Well, yeah, I did. Them handcuffs." He said, I said, "I understand if you can't give me a ride." He said, "Well, Boopy, today's your lucky day." He said, "My wife found this in the motel room." He had a handcuff key. So I got freed. Tickled me to death. I got out of them handcuffs. I couldn't even put shoes on. I had blisters on my feet from running through the middle of town and on that tar roof. He's offering to give me his shoes, and I said, "No, that's all right." So I get to Carson Springs, and I run for a day or two. I had every police in Newport looking for me. I get from Carson Springs, I get up there, got back methed up. I remember I was so high that I didn't even really realize what I was doing, or I should be dead. I thank God that I'm alive right now. But I got messed up, and my brother was at work. And I said, "Man, if I just get up there to where he works at the Holiday Inn, I'll be all right." Because I didn't want to go to his house. I mean, I could go to his house, but with him bringing me there, then he's going to let me know if the police is there or whatever. But anyhow, I get a ride from Carson Springs back up to Cosby Highway. I come down the edge of the woods side the interstate, and I get to the parking lot to where he works at, and I'm looking over. There goes his truck out of the parking lot. I said, "Oh, man, that's the kind of luck I have." I hollered at him, but I mean, of course, he didn't hear me, and I was wringing wet, been up for 2 or 3 days. I go back there and get in a swimming pool. Yeah, big time in it. $1 million man in the swimming pool. Yeah. Like I say, every police in Newport was looking for me. Everywhere I go, it was like they had a tracker on me. Bam, they was there. Everywhere, it didn't matter where I went. Yeah. So I'm in that swimming pool and I hear boo, boo. You know what that sound is? Police coming. Here I am looking through the fence, hiring groceries. Police coming from everywhere. I said, well, they got me. But I jump out of that swimming pool and I run inside of the Holiday Inn. I'm going to run down this highway and go out this glass door on the side. And here I am going down the hall, police everywhere. I turn around and go back up the other side, police everywhere. Well, they got me. Here I got a towel around my head, and I start at the front door. There was more police than I didn't even know that they had that many police in Newport. There was 52 officers in the parking lot. So I come out the door, and the SWAT team was going by me. They didn't even realize it was me, and I thought, oh, yeah, I've got them again. I seen me an opening. I was going to go toward that, right through the middle of them, and I looked, and there's my shot. So right as I started to take off, John Carroll said, Boopy Haynes, get on the ground. I just dropped to my knees and put my hands up. And all them city police, I done made fools of them. They was wanting to whoop me. John Carroll said, I've got him. So John Carroll's a good person. I mean, all the city police are good people too, as long as if you're good, but I was being bad. So John Carroll gets me and puts handcuffs on me, and I'm happy-go-lucky. I know he wasn't going to let them whoop me. So they take me to Greenville. I get over there, get to acting a fool, and there's a lot of gang members over there. And I remember I was trying to call my brother, and he said I couldn't get him. He didn't answer. But before I got to be able, you're locked down 23 hours a day. One of the gang members, he said, you gang bang? I said, I'm a tree trimmer. He said, who you affiliated with? I said, Newport, I guess. That's where I'm from. He said, who you run with? I said, usually by myself. So one thing led to another, and I ended up, they'd fight for soups. I didn't have no commissary or nothing like that, and I told my cellie, I said, hey, you got some soups? He said, yeah, I got some soups. I said, give me a couple of them, and I'll get you a double up. He said, man, you don't want to go out there with him? I said, yeah, I do. Well, I went out there and bit that guy for 2 soups, ended up with 4 soups. Make a long story short, I go out there and use the phone. This guy's mad. He said, when you get off that phone, you might ought to get him up. And they're holding the phone. I said, I can't hear what you're saying. They're trying to get him over where I hit him with a phone. He said, get him up. I said, do what? I was trying to get him cord about that long. I couldn't get him to come up on me. I said, today's your lucky day. Ain't nobody answered. So I hung the phone up. I turned around. I thought we were just going to fight again. He said, get him up. I said, all right. So I put my hands up, and as soon as I raised my hands up, one steps on this side, and one steps on this side. I ended up, before I went out there, I'd sharpen me a toothbrush off like a pencil. I had it stuck down in my waistband. I ended up, we started to fight. I had the big boy whooped. And the 2 little ones, I really wasn't worried about them. But the whole time we was fighting, I jerked that toothbrush out and I stuck that one in the eye, the jaw, and the neck. I got the other one in the neck and then the side. The other one, he thought he was scot-free, but I left that toothbrush stuck in his hip and he'd run around squealing. But I didn't realize when the little one was hitting me, I was thinking to myself, he's lightweight. I'm little anyhow, but he had ended up stabbing me in the arm, a couple places in my arm, my stomach, my legs. So the sheriff wanted me out of there. They brought me back to Newport. I come back to Newport, and I was acting a fool. You weren't allowed to smoke in there. I'd keep kicking on the doors and stuff and just raising Cain. He's going to punish me. So they sent me to Hancock County. Wow, what a punishment. They feed you home-cooked meals and everything over there. As soon as you go in the Sally Porch, you got a bag of backer in your hand. I was happy. I was sad when they said they're bringing me back to Newport, though. I get back to Newport, and I had bukus of charges on me. I praise God every day for letting me be alive, and I just sat down there and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. I've done Bible study. Me and Wesley, there's several of us in there started doing Bible study. Somebody would come in the cell with drugs. Tell them they'd have to go over to 2 cell. We didn't want it in 1 cell. But there was drugs still come in there. A few of them OD'd. The COs, they didn't have enough sense to even use Narcan. I won't mention their name, but yeah, I will. Donnie Gunner, he's doing good right now. Praise God, he's still doing good. Donnie, I'm proud of you, brother. He got in there and OD'd, was dead. He was dead. Just fell over, couldn't raise up. I mean, he was dead. People said, "No, don't beat on that door." Yeah, I'm beating on that door. So I get the police back there. They didn't even know how to use the Narcan. I get the Narcan away from them, and I done drugged Donnie in the shower and wet him with water. I'd done everything I could do to try to save him. They brought that Narcan in there. I ended up hitting him 5 times with Narcan. Get him brought back. The ambulance comes and gets him, and I saved his life. It scared me to death. I'd seen people fall out and stuff, but I had never seen nobody just die graveyard dead. It was heroin, fentanyl. There was a couple of girls that didn't make it down there that was ODing. There was ODing left and right. Scared me to death. There wasn't nothing I could do to keep people from doing it, but just try to invite them over to do Bible study with us. I was sitting there. I'd went to court 2 or 3 times. I'd go over there and I'd go to court, kick the butt can over, grabbing cigarette ducks like a chicken pecking corn, trying to get us tobacco back in the cell, you know. I just not really being mean. I tried to be good, but I just wanted tobacco. We didn't need no drugs in there. We just wanted tobacco. And I was the tobacco king. I could get it. If nobody else could get it, I could get it. And I got to where some of the COs would come in there and say, "What is wrong with you?" I said, "I just need a cigarette." Even the trustees, they was allowed to smoke out there, but they couldn't bring us no tobacco or nothing. And I'd kick on the door and beat on the door and all that good stuff to try to get them to bring us tobacco back there. And they said, "I'll bring you some tobacco if you quit beating." And I thought, well, know how to get us some tobacco now. But it just kept on like that, and I just started. I still really can't read, but I can read the Bible. That Bible has done more for me than anything in this world. I've learned to read from that Bible. I give it all to God. So I just sat in there and prayed and prayed and prayed. They offered me 24 years, served 24 months on a split confinement. I went backwards forwards to court. I'd get over acting a fool. I'd go to court just to get a tobacco backer. I'd get me a bag of backer. I was ready to go back. I knowed I was going to penitentiary, but I never stopped praying. I get over there, and I finally went to court, and I told the judge, I said, "Have you got a piece of duct tape?" He said, "Well, you need duct tape for it." I said, "I'm going to put it on my mouth, and I'm going to sit back here and ain't going to say nothing." I said, "I'd like to get this over with." I never stopped praying. I prayed before I went into court. When I coming out of the court, I was going to take the 24 years, serve 24 months on a split confinement. They handed me the plea bargain to sign it, and I signed it. It said 4 years, serve 4 months. Thank you, God. So I was trying to get my lawyer, Keith Haas. I thank him, too. Trying to get him to ask the judge about it, and he said, "Boopy," he said, he said, I had 52 charges on me. He said, "You know what your plea was before you come up here?" I said, "All right." The more I stood there, the worse they'd eat at me. I tried to get him, ask him again. No. You know what your plea was? I said, "All right." So he handed me that paper to sign. There's another one. I signed it. It said 4 years, served 4 months. Stood there for a minute. I said, "Your Honor, can I ask you something?" He said, "What's that, Boopy?" Even the judge calls me Boopy. He pulls his glasses down on his nose. I said, "Your Honor, if I take his plea today, will I be released today?" District attorney stood up and said, "Your Honor, he's got 52 charges. He's on $1 million bond." I said, "I tried to get you to lower it." Said, "You know what your plea was before you come over here?" And I said, "All right." And that judge pulls his glasses back down on his nose. And he said, "How long you been incarcerated?" I said, 4 months and 8 days. And the secretary that does the typing, she said, "No, Your Honor, it's 4 months and 10 days. I said, I don't mean to lie to you. And I said, "I thought it was 4 months and 8 days. I ain't trying to get you for no days." They said, "No, you got 2 more days than what you're saying. You got 2 days of good time somehow." I said, "I don't know how I done that." But that judge said, "Well, Mr. Haynes, it looks like it's your lucky day." I said, "What do you mean, Your Honor?" He said, "You done signed that plea?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Well, today Mr. Haynes is being released on time served." He said, "The plea that I've got in front of me is 4 years, served 4 months. He's got 4 months and 10 days. He said, I'm ordering you released immediately, Boopy." I said, "The $1 million man is leaving the building." But I ended up going back to jail for violation, not going to see him. I'd get high and be afraid to go see my pro officer. They call it, what is that called, where you abscond? So I wouldn't go see him. I'd get high and be afraid to go see him. And I finally, I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I went back to jail for violation, and I know that I was going to prison. Sat over and prayed. Jesse Cabot, I love that man to death, and he always have a place in my heart. Jesse came and got me. Dan didn't even know he was coming to get me. Jesse and Joey come and got me. I was tickled to death. I walked out the door and they handed me a pack of cigarettes. Boy, I was happy. But I got to go back to JCAP. The first time I done it, when I got released, the judge ordered me released immediately. I think it was 7 or 8, maybe 4 days left to graduate the program. And I stood there for a minute and I said, "Your Honor, can I ask you a question?" He said, "What's that?" I said, I know that, I said, I ain't never like being in jail, but this is one time that I'd really wish you could sentence me to like 4 more days in jail where I could finish this JCAP program. I said, I've struggled to make it through this program. He said, I've never, since I've been a judge, had anybody to ask me to give them more time. I said, if you can find it in your heart just to sentence me to 3 or 4 more days, let me finish this program where I could get where I could complete it. I said, I'd sure appreciate it. And he did, so he sentenced me to 3 or 4 more days. I graduated the program, got out, done good. I'm backtracking, but I got out, started getting high again. Wasn't in good shape. But I got out and started messing with meth and stuff again. I ended up going back to jail. I got a good woman that stuck by me. I apologized to my family, to Lisa. I was bad. I'd get high, wouldn't let her leave for 2 or 3 days at a time. I'd be up for 2 or 3 days, pulling guns on people, doing just crazy stuff. So I ended up going back to jail. The judge told me if I could get it might have been Jesse. Somebody told me that if I could get the gun charge dropped, because if you get caught, if you got a firearm, you can't get in the JCAP or something. So the judge, I asked the judge, I said, hey, he said, I'm going to give you a year flat. I said, that's fine. I said, can I go back to JCAP? He said, if they accept you. He said, I'll tell you what. He said, I'll drop the gun. I said, if you can drop the gun charges, I said, I'll plead guilty to the rest of it. So I ended up going back to JCAP. I did the whole year, maybe a week or so later, more than a year, just trying to get my heart and my mind right. And me and Lisa, we talked. I was getting passes and stuff. And, like I say, she was an alcoholic. She drank all of her life. And she said, the only way we're going to be able to make it work is for her to quit drinking and me to prove to her that I'm going to stay straight. So we both been doing good. I've got 2 years and 7 months clean. It ain't nothing that I've done, but I give it all to God for what He's done for me. I can't do it on my own, and I know if I don't give it to God, I just can't do it on my own. So I stay in my Bible. I've got my family back in my life. I've got my son, both my sons, their wives, my brother, his wife, my nephews and nieces, my brother-in-law, sister-in-law. I've got all my family back in my life, and I owe it all to God. I've got a lot of support from my brothers, RU brothers, JCAP brothers, sisters. I guess that's about all I've got besides God, I love you and I thank you for what